say free education for everybody. We have to have some standards of exams, entry exams. If it's science, then it has to be based on science and mathematics. If it's business or whatever it is, so you cannot allow to enter university without having the proper knowledge because of those tests. This is my experience because, believe me, when I went to write the entrance exams, although I had good marks in high school, the entrance exams was the level that what is now a second year level of the university. So this is what basically is all about. And definitely I agree with the free education. I don't think it's going to be something very soon. Needs a lot of studies to be made. But at the same time, let's go for the things that, like reduce the cost of the books, reduce some of the tuition fees, more grants to the students, things like that will help the students. And then we can look further from that and say, okay, we achieved that, what we can do now? Reduce tuition fees by 50%, whatever. So, but a deep cut and no free education will be something, a goal that is going to be very difficult to achieve. The other one you can negotiate. A free education, you have to negotiate with the university and with the government, because that's what it will take. And I don't think an opposition party would like to have the idea of $8 billion a year education or whatever it is. So, but that's my comments. Thank you.
You want to answer right away, or we can take some more questions?
The unfortunate reality is that you're probably not going to see free education, not in my lifetime anyway, not in this country, not the way things are progressing. But what we can do is improve our situation and improve on what we do have, rather than like trying to find something we can't obtain and work with what we have. My question is for the board, for the panel up here, is that what would you do to make education more affordable and more accessible for students with permanent disabilities and learning disabilities in the university education system and students that are marginalized?
Any questions or any takers from the panel?
Sure. I mean, a big part of the reason why education, I think, is inaccessible, particularly for people from marginalized groups, whether that's economically marginalized, marginalized because of disability, marginalized because of race. I think a lot of it is sticker shock and the feeling that this is not a welcoming culture for people, right? I think that's a huge problem. I mean, I think one of the arguments behind reducing tuition fees or providing grants instead of loans or allowing, right, encouraging a university that's more receptive to its student body and more open to a different kind of student body. I mean, the university should be an engine of social progress and social mobility for disadvantaged groups. It shouldn't be an elite circle jerk. I don't want to work at a university that's just an elite circle jerk of white people patting themselves on the back for being awesome and white and rich, right? That's not a university I think anybody at this panel wants anything to do with, right? So I do think, right, the way that we talk about university as a kind of fiscal and individual benefit locks a lot of people out. And I do think sticker shock and an ununderstandable student aid program are, again, redoubling the difficulties that any marginalized person faces. Anyone?
I think we're hearing a lot about, maybe free education isn't going to happen in our lifetime. Sure, but I'm someone that sits in a lot of these meetings with the government. I'm someone that spends a lot of my hours in the week with university administrations, with every VP known to man. And despite that, I am still optimistic. Despite sitting in a room and having our Minister of Education here in Nova Scotia ask me as a student how I'm going to fix this $50 million funding gap for post-secondary institutions here in this province, despite the fact that I'm already doing that every day when I'm paying my freaking tuition fees, I'm still optimistic. And what we need to recognize is that actions like this are one in many actions that we need to take. And what we need to do is be making this an issue. We need to be making this a dialogue because we know that public education is a public good. We know that having a more educated society is going to benefit all of us, both in moral terms and because it's a right, but also in financial terms if you want to take it that way. I think there's something about accountability that we need to recognize because I think that education is a right. I think that we can reduce tuition fees and I think that we can see a form of free post-secondary education in this country. But that doesn't mean that we need to stop asking questions of accountability. We do need to hold our governments accountable and we need to hold our university administrations accountable. The fact that I said that ancillary fees, international student fees are deregulated in this province is absurd. The fact that they can continue to charge whatever they want and won't be questioned on that by our provincial government is absurd. And so those kinds of conversations come hand in hand, and those are the ones that we need to be having. But those are conversations that we are going to make a public dialogue, and that's what actions like this are a part of. And that's what we're going to do, even when our university administrations and even when our governments will fail to do that with us.
Questions?
So, private universities are a business. Take the cynic side, but it's working for them so far, and it will keep.
Not actually. They have a much lower completion rate, and they're actually starting to take legal action against places like University of Phoenix and the state, because those are turbo debt factories. Those are debt sweatshops. Sorry to cut you off. I just have to go teach
Thank
class.
you. No, that's exactly the point. Whatever, because I'm Greek as well, and I've seen what dialogue and open aggression can do, and in the end, it doesn't really make that much of a difference. So I'm wondering, why would they succumb to whatever pressure we think we're putting on them? And
Hey, Eeyore. The other side of the Greek tragedy that nobody ever talks about is the Greeks did not pay their taxes, right? Nobody ever talks about the fact that the largest industry in Greece is
Shipping, which is constitutionally forbidden from being taxed, right? That the largest industry in Greece is not taxed, which would be analogous to our free money for Fort McMurdo, right? And that there was a culture in Greece of tax avoidance because tax payments weren't, right? Like, people always use your country as an example of social programs run amok, when in fact it's also tax irresponsibility gone batshit that's at work in the Greek situation, right? That, again, this is all a question of priorities. Like, it drives me bats that we live in the wealthiest society that has ever walked the face of this ball of mud, that we live in the age where rich kids of Instagram is a Tumblr, a book, and a movie. No, wait, TV show, sorry. And we're gonna be the ones to cancel Shakespeare? We're gonna be the ones who are like, oh, we don't have enough money for ethics anymore. We don't have enough money for art and being decent fucking human beings anymore. We're the ones who are going to cancel that when we have billionaires walking the face of the earth. I gotta go deep.
Anyone else? JD?
If you have to go, maybe this is the right time to wrap up the panel. It is 12:50, so we promise to end up 12:45, so it's about timely. If people want to stick around and chat with the panelists, I'm sure they're welcome to. If you have to go, the loaded ladle is going to be open soon, as we're getting live.